on, Dad. Let's get into the ocean. Just one more time, George wheedled.
That's enough, kiddo. When we have a little rest, we'll go in again, George's father answered. He lay on his back and his big belly was showing.
Oh,
George sighed. He was 8 years old, a bit short for his age, blond and had bright green eyes. His mother and father just lay on the sand under the umbrella all the time. However, George did not find the sand that interesting. He wanted to be in the water. He could not get enough of it, and the waves, the foam, the mussels, and the crabs. The sea stretched out before him, blue, deep, reaching the horizon. It was probably endless. However, his parents did not let him go into the water alone, and he was a little afraid to do so himself. George sat under the umbrella next to his mother. She was reading a book. George picked up a stick and drew a figure in the sand. He did not like it and erased it with his foot, then drew another figure. But he didn't like that either. Finally, he drew a circle.
Mom, can you guess where this circle begins?
George asked. Ask your father. He's good at math, his mother replied absent-mindedly.
Dad, where is the beginning of a circle?
A circle has no beginning or end.
Well, here's the beginning. I started drawing it from there, George pointed out.
You started drawing it there, but once it's finished, all circles have no beginning and no end. It's an infinite loop. George thought about it. Something so small, but infinite. Then he got angry that his entertainment drawing circles with a beginning and an end was ruined. He stepped in the circle drawn in the sand and rose. Where to? His mother asked.
Just for a walk. It's boring here.
His father intervened. He propped himself on his elbows and looked at George. All right, but don't go too far. Not farther than those rocks over there. And don't go into the water or we're going home. As he said it, his father lay back comfortably on the towel beneath him and covered his face with his hat.
To the rocks only. Okay,
the boy replied. George started walking across the sand, but it was scorching, so he scampered down to the waterline and walked along the shore. The waves poured over his feet, covering his ankles. He walked a little and looked back. His footprints were getting wiped off the sand the farther back he gazed. The waves had washed them away. George ran to the rocks. He wanted to get there and have his footprints remain in the sand before the sea could erase them. The rocks rose gradually, and it seemed it was possible to climb to the top, which George did easily. He saw the rocks descended on the other side, and in the space formed between them, there was a secret place. An older man was sitting down there. He had a t-shirt on, short pants, and a dark tan. He wore a wide-brimmed hat, and there was an umbrella behind him to protect him from the sun. The man held a fishing rod in his hand. The rocks concealed him from sight, which is why George had not seen him from the beach.
Good afternoon,
the boy greeted politely. The man looked up and smiled. Hello.
Can I climb down to you?
Of course. Just make sure you don't fall.
Oh, I won't fall,
George said, and descended the rocks carefully, although they were very easy to get up and down, almost like stairs.
I'm George,
he said when he joined the man. Who else can you be but George? The older man asked, laughing, but did not introduce himself. After a short silence, George asked,
Are the fish biting?
He did not see a bucket or anything where the older man could put in what he had caught. Not really, but I let the fish go anyway. I don't like fish much, but I love fishing. The boy thought that strange, but he did not think much about it. To make himself sound important, George asked,
Did you know that a circle has no beginning or end?
Only a mathematician can tell you that, the old man said, smiling. Everyone else will tell you the one who drew the circle knows where the beginning and the end is.
Exactly what I was thinking all along.
The bobber jumped. There, we've got something, the old man said, and began to reel in the line quickly and deftly. Then he went to the water, dipped his hand into the sea, grasped the fish, took out the hook, and showed it to George. See? A goby. Don't touch it with a dry hand, then he will get sick. The boy listened to him, wet his hand, and stroked the goby. And now we'll let him go again, the old man said, returning the fish to the sea. George watched as it submerged and vanished. Then the older man baited the hook again. George sat on the rocks and stared out at the sea. Endless, full of monsters, scary with all the unknown it was hiding below its waves. The sea is not endless, you know. The old man somehow guessed George's thoughts.
Is it not?
No, everything has an end. George felt uneasy for some reason.
And at the end?
He asked. There is another beginning beyond the end. The boy thought for a while. It must be so. He would tell his father that everything has an end, even the circle, if only you know where it starts. He decided that his father would get in the sea with him now, especially when he told him about the end of the circle.
Have you been here for a while?
George asked. Yes and no. Since this morning. My whole life. George thought about that, but decided to ask about the part of the answer that was less confusing.
Wow, since morning. Isn't that boring?
What's boring about it? I enjoy the sea, the sun.
I don't know, just sit. Did you get in the water at least?
George asked. Of course. I do what I feel like. But nowadays, I feel more like staying on the beach and looking at the sea. That's it. I look at the sea and I think.
What do you think about?
Well, about a lot of things. The old man leaned toward the child and said, Honestly, I've looked at the sea for a long time, since I was your age, and I have accumulated many memories. Now I sit in this quiet, cozy place and recollect them. You're probably not like that. You're in a rush to get into the water, build a sandcastle, or draw circles. But I love to reminisce.
I hope I'm not interfering with your thoughts,
George said quietly. Well, no. And it's good to make new memories from time to time, even for an old man like me. They sat on the sand between the rocks and talked a little longer. But they were silent most of the time and just watched the sea. Suddenly, George remembered that his parents would be looking for him.
All right, I've got to leave,
he said and stood up. Of course. Nice to meet you. I imagine you're looking forward to new meetings. Well, if not with me, at least with this place. It's magical. At least, it can be, if you want it to be, the old man said. George looked at him curiously. What did he mean, magical? Still, even though he was a bit strange, the older man was sympathetic. George waved goodbye and climbed back up the rocks.